Your Excellency, Ambassador Danny Danon, we are really proud of your service. And I was thinking when you were talking this morning that you remind me of the prophet Daniel, with one exception. He was thrown to the den of lions only once. Thank you so much. I want to give a very short presentation. Actually, this touches something that both of the precious and excellent speakers here earlier mentioned. And I want to start the presentation because there is something about changing the history when the Jewish people and the Christians actually can work together. And because it is not easy. This is something that is very, very challenging. It's not taken for granted. But when you show me this next one, you have seen, I'm studying the Christian history of Christian Zionism and teaching this now as a course in IDC in Herzliya. But when you study the history of Christian Zionism, you will realize something very interesting. It's been going on for very, very many years. It's been hundreds of years of people that have taken a bold stand for Israel. And yet their work, and I could go through the history, I could give you the names, Lord Shaftesbury, Colonel Churchill, many who stood up for Israel, many who changed actually the history and the policies of their countries. They did their work, but they were not absolutely successful until they could work together, the Jews and the Christians together. Now, if you show the next one, we will see here some amazing people. William Blackstone, a lay preacher, and the Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis. Now, Blackstone came up with something that was outstanding. He's not very well known in the history, but he had a petition. He presented this petition to President Harrison, and he basically gave a very simple argumentation. He said, if Serbia is given back to Serbs and Bulgaria to Bulgarians, why cannot the Jewish people receive their homeland back? That was 1891. One of the signatories, and there was 413 that signed it, was the future president of the United States of America, President McKinley. I really believe that that's the reason why he became the president. But if you play me the next one, show us the next one, we will see here something that absolutely brought a change. And this is Theodor Herzl working together with William Veksler. Yes, Blackstone was able to gather all of these signatories and all of these important people together. They made this declaration, and yet it was when the Jews and the Christians could work together, something significant happened. Here we have an Anglican minister, William Veksler, a man that dreamt of becoming a missionary in Africa, became sick, he couldn't do this, and became a tutor of the Grand Duke of Baden-Württemberg, Ferdinand. Because he had this position, he got to know all of German nobility. And when he, in 1896, in March, picks up the book that Theodor Herzl has written, the Judenstaat, the Jewish state, he is very, very happy. He's excited, and so he goes and finds Herzl. He's even not introducing himself. He knocks at his door. He rushes in and he said, "Mr. Herzl, we have been waiting for you for 4 years. I've been telling everybody about you, and I've told everybody that you are about to appear because your cause will win. You have the message, you have the program, you have the plan, and we will succeed." Now, Herzl was absolutely shocked because he didn't know what to think of this excited preacher. But he wrote down in his diary and he said, "I know for one thing that this man believes in the prophecy." Now, what was the combination? Why it became so successful? They were accused of all kinds of things, both Herzl and Veksler, but they could work together for 8 years. Because of his contacts with the German nobility, Veksler opened the door for a meeting with Wilhelm II, Kaiser of Germany. Now, they worked hard to have it happen. And in 1898, finally, when Kaiser had his huge trip to Jerusalem, there was a major media event. He came, there was a lot of attention. They had a meeting with Herzl. Sadly enough, when Herzl presented the idea, what was the idea? The idea was very simple. Let Germany be the protectorate of the Jewish community within the Turkish Empire. That Germany would be the protector of the Jewish people in the territory of Israel of today that was under the Turkish Empire. The Kaiser listened to this proposal and said, with all my due respect and sympathy to the Jewish people, I will not betray the interests of the German nation. Now, Herzl was devastated. He thought it was over. He thought all of this work was done for nothing. And yet, he never realized that it was because of that meeting he became a global figure. Because he earlier was just a journalist, just a Jewish playwright. Now he becomes an ambassador. He becomes a representative of the Zionist movement. Because he must be somebody important if the Kaiser, William II, meets with him in Jerusalem. In 1897, because of the book that Theodor Herzl wrote, there is the first Zionist Congress taking place in Basel. And if you think of this, there were not only the Jewish delegates there were 10 prominent Christian delegates present at that Zionist Congress, first Zionist Congress. Some of them, Wilhelm Veksler, Henri Dunant, the founder of the Red Cross. There were several that were present, and Herzl called them, and this is the first time that this phrase is ever used. He called them Christian Zionists. Now, why am I talking about this? It was because when Herzl writes in his diary, what did I accomplish in Basel? If I would have to write it down, he said, in Basel, I established the Jewish state. If I would tell this publicly now, people everywhere would laugh at me. But in 5 years, for sure, in 50 years, everyone will see it. So if you do the math, 1897 plus 50 is 1947, which is the year of the vote in the UN, of the partition of the British Mandate, that basically leads to the start of the independent state of Israel in 1948. Now, it was this partnership of Christians and Jews working together, and if you show me the next slide, that also led to Balfour Declaration. It was Chaim Weizmann who basically saved Britain in the First World War, and Arthur Balfour, who was a Christian man with a strong understanding of the Bible because of his mother and his upbringing, his Scottish upbringing. Arthur Balfour is the person that basically sends this letter to Mr. Rothschild, saying it is the desire of the British government, His Majesty's government, to establish a Jewish national home in Palestine. Now, again, a Christian man and a Jewish scientist working together, leading to this Balfour Declaration. Of course, there were many other things that led to this, but if you show me the next one, you will see if you will show me the next slide, please, you will see another great example. The Jewish state is born. Ben-Gurion makes the very bold declaration in 1948, 14th of May. He knows that the chances are not 50-50, as he was told. He knows that the chances are much less. He knows there is no chance Israel could ever win 5 regular armies that are about to attack. He knew that there is no human way of winning that war. Nevertheless, he stands up like Joshua and Caleb, and he takes a decision of faith, and he declares the state of Israel against all odds. Now, there was another very important thing that had to happen, the recognition of this newly born state. And President Truman is the most unlikely gentleman. He was not coming into politics in a regular way. I mean, there's so much to say, but at that time, he didn't want to see anyone to convince him that he has to support this or that. Yet he had a friend, Eddie Jacobson, a Jewish friend, a business friend. They made business together before he became president. And of course, Eddie Jacobson is the one whom Truman cannot refuse to meet. And Eddie Jacobson comes in and says, I have somebody you have to meet. Chaim Weizmann needs to talk to you. And in spite of his opposition, and in spite of saying no, no, no before, he meets with Chaim Weizmann. And 11 minutes after, 11 minutes, and remember, there's no cell phones, there's no internet. 11 minutes after that, Ben-Gurion stands in Tel Aviv and pronounces and declares the birth of the State of Israel. President Truman recognizes the independence, an independent state of Israel in the United States of America. Now, here is this new initiative called Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast. And little did we know that when we gathered in 2017 that President Trump would ever address our gathering the next year. Because as we gathered this year to celebrate Israel's 70th anniversary, President Trump actually had written a letter and saying his words of blessing to Jerusalem Prayer Breakfast movement. And we were really happy that Congresswoman Michelle Bachmann was able to present our letter in the White House just 2 months ago at the White House dinner. So the lesson that I wanted to give is very, very simple. It's a challenging thing. But if and when the Jewish people and the Christian can work together, we will change history. We are here. We are here as history changers. And I want to say one more thing. We heard His Excellency Danny Danon, the Ambassador to the United Nations, speaking today. My eyes were full of tears, hearing all of the challenges he has to go through on a daily basis. I want to ask you to pray for him. Put him on your prayer list after your family. Lift up our ambassador, Danny Danon, at the UN. Thank you so much.